So before we do that, we're going to have a song from David Rovix, who... And David Rovix is a legend here in Portland. This guy is the anti-war, the anti-imperialist, the pro-labor, the anti-racist musician. And I've been listening to David Rovix for years, and I never dreamed that David Rovix would be playing at our events. But, you know, a couple years ago we had an event in Kansas, and David Rovix came out, and we've been friends ever since. So I'm honored that you're here. The one time, I think the first time I ever went to Iran, I had only a couple songs that I had in my computer to listen to, and one of them was the song you wrote for John Brown. And I listened to that song over and over and over again on my trip to Iran. And today, I believe, is the, if I'm not mistaken, is the 164th anniversary of the execution of John Brown today. So what a day to have David Rovix performing at the National Convention, the first national convention of the Center for Political Innovation. So go ahead, David.
Thank you, Caleb. You know, hearing people talk about building movements and building organization, it's really a stark thing coming back. I was just in Scandinavia playing at anti-war rallies all over the place, and there the anti-war rallies, they just start happening as soon as there's a reason to be having anti-war rallies, because the infrastructure is all there. The Left Party, the Communist Party, all kinds of other organizations, labor unions have sound systems, buildings, trucks, sound trucks, all this stuff. They already have all this infrastructure, so there's no need to like try to figure out where we're going to rent the sound system from. You know, it's and then the organizers. You know, I don't need to figure out who the organizers of the rallies are, because they're all the same people organizing all my gigs, because this is how movements work. That's how it works when you have a real movement, you know, because then everybody knows everybody, because, you know, even if it's a fairly sizable left, it's still small enough that everybody knows everybody, you know, and that's especially true in Scandinavia. But this song was written partially as a direct result of Scott Ritter's excellent writing, and one of many songs that I've written in the past few weeks about a subject that we've all been alluded to. The story begins, they'll say, in the fall of 23, when the inmates in the prison camp broke free, attacking military targets, 400 soldiers dead. If you listen to survivors, so many of them said those others who were killed died during the fight, as the army came in, destroying everything in sight, smashing down the buildings upon fighters, upon kids. All the evidence suggests that's exactly what they did. And then the Air Force took no time at all to bomb hospitals and churches and to make the towers fall. The Western media just repeats the lies, while every minute or so another child dies, buried beneath the rubble of homes and schools and playgrounds, crushed just seconds after hearing the deafening sound of bombs exploding everywhere underneath the rocks. Slide around the world, people shouting, "Stop the genocide!" At least 10,000 killed in just the first 4 weeks. They killed 5,000 children to bomb the men they see. But what's happened up to this point will pale in compare with the gravity of what I'm about to share. With more than 1 million children, it seems impossible to think the IDF wants no one to have anything to drink. They're bombing water tanks, they're by the ocean side. Around the world, people shouting, "Stop the genocide!" They walled off the ghetto almost 20 years ago, sealed it off on all sides to throttle off the flow of what might go in or out, like things to drink or eat, medicine or people or necessities to meet the needs of 2 million trapped beneath the bombs, beneath the chemical weapons, burning skin like napalm, beneath the bunker busters the U.S. has provided. Around the world, people shouting, "Stop the genocide!" The world watches on in outrage and in fear as the latest war to end all wars is here. Like the most deadly game of chess, the U.S. Navy in the harbor, as if to dare anyone to try to stop the slaughter, as the facts on the ground are more dire by the second. If we look into the future. How will this be reckoned? We ask each other in the streets, marching side by side. Around the world, people shouting, stop the genocide. All of those who wondered, what could I have done? The last time there was such a Holocaust as this one are faced with the dilemma that's bursting at the seam. How to stop the madness of this Israeli regime. How to stop the killing before everybody dies. While there are any parents left to hear the cries of their children in the rubble just before they die. Around the world, people shouting, stop the genocide.
Hell yeah.
Wow. So now I have the honor of bringing to the podium a military analyst, a former UN weapons inspector, a great hero, an advocate of peace, someone who's been exposing the truth and telling so many people what they need to hear about what's been happening lately in Gaza, but also about what's been happening with Russia and China, and a voice that needs to be heard. We've got Scott Ritter here, and we're honored to have Scott Ritter. Scott.
Thank you very much. Say what? Thank you very much for the warm welcome. Wow, that's all I can say about that. And the fact that you used my name in association with that song is touching. I want to thank Jetta for introducing us, Elizabeth, Caleb, all of CPI. I have learned that you are not the Communist Party International. Or India. But, again, here I am in a situation where I liken it to once more into the breach. Because we are not alike in terms of our approaches towards society. We come from different backgrounds. Let me just put it that way. And yet here I am, speaking with you again. Why? Because of what you said. Because we are Americans. That's what unites us. That's what brings us together. Now, I'm a little upset with you because you took the theme of my speech. Something about I'm mad as shit. We're not going to let this shit happen anymore. I thought long and hard about this speech. Now you've blown it, so I've got to make it up as I go along. But that's okay. No, in all seriousness, this is supposed to be about anti-war, an anti-war movement. I am not anti-war. I just want to make that point as loud and clear as I can. I'm not pro-war. I don't support war. I'm against war. But if you want to wage war, there ain't nobody better at than me. Okay? I know how to wage war. That's why I hate war. I despise war. But if you want to fight, let's fight. And the reason why I bring this up is we are confronted with some problems today. For instance, let's take Russia and Ukraine. It's a war I think we can all agree we want to end. No, we don't want it to end. Because if it ends today, right now, there is no justice. There is no justice for the children of Donbass. There's no justice for the Russians who have been oppressed by the fascist regime in Kiev. No, there needs to be a war. This thing has to be settled. Once you cross the threshold, once you cross the line of departure, then you must close with and destroy the enemy through firepower maneuver. Now, that's difficult for an anti-war movement to understand. But Russia didn't start this war. What we know is that Russia did everything possible to prevent this war. Everything possible. And the reason why I'm yelling is because I'm mad. I'm mad at my country for not allowing the opportunities for peace to manifest themselves. Hundreds of thousands of people would be alive today had we simply taken the hand that was reached out in the cause of peace. But we rejected it. We rejected it. We lied while rejecting it. We claimed to be for peace, but we were never for peace. We were always for war. And so war has come to us. And through war, tragically, this process will be solved. Now, people say, Scott, you're an American. Yes, I am. Damn proud to be an American. You attack my country, I will kill you or die trying. So don't attack America. But when we're talking about Russia and Ukraine, we're not talking about somebody attacking America. We're talking about America facilitating the attack on another country. America manipulating events. America overthrowing a constitutionally elected government in Ukraine. America using an ostensible peace process as a vehicle to arm, train, and equip a military force for the sole purpose of killing Russians. We bragged about it. There's a slide that the U.S. Army put out about the training facilities in Western Ukraine. We train a battalion, they said, every 55 days. A battalion of Ukrainians to NATO standards every 55 days here on the map, and then an arrow so they can go here and kill Russians. Wow. At least we were honest for the first time in our lives, because that's what Minsk was about. The Minsk Accords were supposed to be a ceasefire agreement that could lead to peace. Peace that would have preserved the territorial integrity of Ukraine. Preserved it. Would have given Ukraine security guarantees, but not through NATO, because NATO is not about security. NATO is about the opposite of security. NATO is an extension of imperialist American objectives using a foreign flag as cover. That's all it's about. And yet we pretended it was about peace. And we allowed Angela Merkel to front for us. We allowed Francois Hollande to front for us. We allowed Ukrainian presidents to front for us. But what were they fronting for? They admitted today, a sham. It wasn't about peace, it was about buying time so that NATO could train this Ukrainian army to kill Russians. And Russia said, hell no. Just like we did. Study our history. The British taxation without representation, the tyranny of the crown, and we said, hell no. And we stood up and we fought a revolution to free ourselves. What would the anti-war movement have done in 1775? Fold? Hold a demonstration? No, you had to stand with the Minutemen at Concord and Lexington and say, you shall not pass. That's right. And so the Russians have said the same thing. We will not allow this fascist tyranny. It's not just Ukraine, it's a collective West using the cause of fascism. My God, my uncle went across the beach at Normandy in 1944 to fight the Nazis. I told this story before, where he finally made it to, they fought through France. It was sort of a walk in the park. And he got to a field in Belgium, and the 88s opened up. And in a matter of seconds, 250 of his colleagues, men that he had trained with, many he knew, were dead on the ground. And when he visited us, my parents lived in Germany, we visited us, we took him to the cemetery where these men were buried. And he broke down and he cried like a baby because of the sacrifice, the loss that was put into the cause of defeating fascism, Nazi Germany. Americans died for that cause. 27 million Soviets died for that cause. British died for that cause. French died for that cause. And yet today we are promoting the very cause that these people died and sacrificed their lives for. Why? Why? It's not about freedom. It's not about liberty. It's about imperialism. It's about the very thing that America struggled to free ourselves from so many years ago. We're now seeking to impose it on the rest of the world. We stopped being the good guys and we have become the bad guys.
Yep. That's right.
This is bullshit. I want to use your line again. We're not going to put up with this shit anymore.
We're not going to put up with this shit anymore.
But how do we solve this problem? That's the problem. That's where we're at. And I thank you for bringing music into this, because I don't know, there's people out there that say that they listen to me and they follow me. I've been on a couple of shows, a guy named Malcolm Byrne. He does a wonderful radio show out of Radio Kingston. And we have a couple hours worth of conversation, but we interspace it with music. And music is a very important part of lives. I mean, music allows people to express themselves. And I don't know about you guys, but I've been around for 62 years. And so when I look back on my life, it's usually in the form of a soundtrack. I mean, I pick a moment in my life and I'm like, oh yeah, that Bruce Springsteen song was pretty cool back then. Or yeah, Boz Scaggs. I know I'm giving my age away. But the Eagles. The Bee Gees. But the point is, music is a big thing. So as I was flying over and trying to think, what am I going to say here? A song came to mind. And it's a Bruce Springsteen song. But you know, the lyrics, I think, are pretty telling. Near the end of the song, the singer talks about a guy, he says, and Tom said, the Tom I'll get to in a minute. Ma, wherever there's a cop beating a guy, wherever a hungry newborn baby cries. I tear up because 5,000 kids getting killed in Gaza right now. And more to die because it's never going to end.
Shameful.
If you don't cry about that, you're not human. Wherever a hungry newborn baby cries, where there's a fight against the blood and hatred in the air, look at me, Ma, and I'll be there. I'm here with you guys because this is what it's about. This isn't about ideology or this is about people coming together. The song is about Tom Joad, a character in John Steinbeck's wonderful book, The Grapes of Wrath. And the thing about Tom Joad is that there's a transformation that takes place through his telling the story in the Great Depression, where he stops being this self-centered, seize the day kind of guy, and instead he becomes a fighter for the people, a fighter for the cause. And that's what we have to become. The hell with the peace movement. And I don't mean that bad, but we have to be fighters. Okay, we can't be pacifists anymore. It's time to struggle. And I'm about talking about violence. I am not talking about violence. Violence is what the Russians do and the Ukrainians do. That's their fight, not our fight. Yeah. Unfortunately, the United States promoted conflict. Live by the sword, you shall perish by the sword. And those whom we sent to war are now paying the ultimate price. And it is tragic, but once this process of cleansing by fire has started, it can't stop until it's finished. So let the Russians finish the job. Because we know the Russians' intent is pure. They didn't want this war. They didn't ask for this war, but war was thrust upon them. And therefore, through war, they shall finish their job. Our job is to be prepared when the fighting stops. How do we ensure that the sacrifice made in the cause of promoting anti-fascism isn't squandered? That we get the Russians on a path towards peace, not just with the Ukrainians, but with the Europeans, with the Americans. That's our responsibility as Americans, to get the United States positioned so that when the fighting stops, we can ensure that it never happens again. That, ladies and gentlemen, is an anti-war movement. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a peace movement. And I've been struggling for this. I've been struggling this for some time. I've been trying to say, well, what can I do? And my whole thing has been to attack Russophobia, the ignorance that comes from the fear of all things Russian. And you're afraid of that which you don't know, that which you don't understand. And so what I've been trying to do is travel to Russia, get some experiences from Russia, package those experiences, and get it out to the American people. I call the process waging peace, as opposed to waging war. I guess in a way that's a anti-war movement, that's a pro-peace movement. So I'm trying to contribute as I can. And I was making progress until October 7th. On October 7th, the world changed yet again. Another war was thrust upon us. And this is a hard one, because as much as we have problems identifying with Russia, in the United States, we don't know how to articulate responsibly about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. You see, and I'm going to speak some hard truths here. We, America, have been bought out, sold out to this power called Zionism. We're not allowed to say it, you see. The mere fact that I said this, according to the United States Congress, has made me anti-Semitic. And I always tell people that's the last thing in the world I am. I'm not racist. I'm not anti any religion. I'm not anti any people. Zionism is not a religion. It is not a people. It is an ideology of hate, an ideology of intolerance, an ideology that says that one group of people are inherently superior to all others, especially those who populate the land that the Zionists want to occupy themselves. Zionism is an evil, and it's manifested itself today in the form of an Israeli state that defines itself by this very ideology. Now, I have come to this issue late in life. I'm a disarmament guy. I'm a Russia guy. I'm not an Israeli-Palestinian guy. I spent a lot of time in Israel in the 90s working with the Israeli government trying to stop weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and I learned to love Israel at that time. But the Israel that I fell in love with was the Israel of Yitzhak Rabin, the Israel of a prime minister who recognized that the path Israel was on was incompatible to long-term peace and prosperity, and that there had to be a way of relating with the Palestinians that gave them a state, a two-state solution, something that said, this is yours, this is ours, we will be equals upon this. It wasn't perfect. I know people out there will point to Oslo 1 and Oslo 2 and say, it wasn't perfect. No, it wasn't. It's a hell of a lot better than what we got going on right now. At least you had an Israeli prime minister who said, I believe in peace. He didn't just say, I believe in peace. He said, I am willing to die for peace. Imagine that. An Israeli leader who said, I am willing to die for peace. I am willing to die for peace with the Palestinians. He said that the day before he was assassinated on November, I believe, 4th or 5th of 1995. 4th. Who killed him? A Palestinian? A member of Hamas? No. A right-wing Orthodox Jew who took his orders to assassinate from a rabbi who quoted not the Torah but the Talmud and said that Yitzhak Rabin had somehow turned his back on the Jewish faith and therefore he must be killed. And so they killed him. They killed him, and Israel has never been the same, because who took over from Yitzhak Rabin was Benjamin Netanyahu. And Benjamin Netanyahu empowered this poisonous ideology to become what Israel is today. Not a nation that's seeking peace, but a nation that only exists for war against the Palestinian people. The Israeli state is an evil state. The Israeli state today is a tyrannical state. It's a state that must be opposed violently, because they chose war. It wasn't the Palestinian people that chose war. Israel chose war. Just like it wasn't the Minutemen at Concord and Lexington that said, we choose war. It was thrust upon them by the tyranny of the British Crown. And so when you take a look at October 7th and what happened on October 7th, don't believe that history began that day. It didn't. October 7th was the manifestation of 7+ decades of apartheid-driven hate between the Israelis and the Palestinians that manifested itself violently throughout that time period. Gaza was not a land where Palestinians lived in peace. It was an open-air concentration camp. And if you ask yourself, if you lived in that, if you were an inmate in this concentration camp, a prisoner, what would you do to liberate yourself? What would you do to free yourself? Hold another demonstration? Hold a rally. That'll do it. The Israelis will definitely listen to the rally. No, you do what all people who yearn to be free do. You stand up and you fight for yourselves. You know, Pierce Morgan, you're allowed to boo and hiss at this point, has made a reputation lately by having people on his show, and they'll say, but will you condemn Hamas? That's his question. Will you condemn Hamas? Hey, Pierce, invite me. I'll give you the answer. Hell no. I don't condemn Hamas. I support Hamas. Why? Because Hamas stands for the freedom of the Palestinian people. And the Palestinian people have every right to fight for their freedom, to struggle for their freedom, just like Americans did back in the day.
Right.
They are the modern day incarnation of the Minutemen at Lexington and Concord. They speak a different language, they support a different cause, but the freedoms they seek are the same.
Right.
And these are freedoms that can't be granted by a rally or a gathering. They can only be given by those who are willing to sacrifice in that cause. And the Palestinians today are struggling. They are sacrificing for this cause. We as a peace movement, it's not our war. It's not. They have to earn this. And my God, they are earning it.
That's right.
The sacrifices that they are making, the courage they are showing in the face of insurmountable odds. What is our role here? To support them, yes. But we have to position ourselves so that when the fighting finally ends, and it will end, ladies and gentlemen, and Hamas will not be defeated. When it ends, we are prepared to find a path towards peace. That America stops being the nation that promotes war and starts being the nation that promotes peace. That is the role of an American anti-war movement today.
Oh, yeah.
So we come back to Tom Joad and that song, and you know, I did the one verse, but the last verse, and I don't know if you've seen Bruce Springsteen videos. When the song came out, it was sort of this acoustic thing, very soft, very mellow. But later on, he reimagined it with Tom Morello of Rage Against the Machine, and it became something different, a different song. So Tom Morello not only plays guitar, but he also sings along with Bruce, and the rawness of his voice is very important. So Tom Morello sings the last verse, and I got to get it in my head because I remembered it 2 verses at a time. Where's a cop beating a guy? Wherever a hungry newborn baby cries, where's a fight against the blood and hatred in the air? Look at me and Ma, and I'll be there. When there's somebody struggling to be free. I believe that. Wait, I might be getting this wrong. I'm blowing it. No, that's the final one.
For a place to stand, decent job.
Yeah, when you're struggling to find a place to stand for a decent job and a helping hand, when there's somebody struggling to be free, look at me, Ma, and you'll see me. Hey guys, look in the mirror. Look in the mirror, every single one of you. Look in the mirror, and that should be you singing the song. Look at me, Ma, and you'll see me standing for freedom, standing for the people who are struggling to be free. Look at me, Ma, and you'll see me. Dare to struggle?
Dare to win.
Hell yeah. Thank you very much.
American hero.
Wow. Wow.